A woman sits in a courtroom and describes, in precise detail, the face of the man who attacked her, the color of his jacket, the sound of his voice, the exact words he used. She is not lying. Every neurologist who has studied her case agrees on that. She is also wrong. The man she described with absolute certainty had been in another state when it happened. Her memory was perfect. Her memory was also completely fabricated, and her brain never once told her the difference. This is not a story about a damaged brain. This is a story about how every brain works. The assumption most people carry without examining is that memory functions like a recording. Something happens, the brain files it, and when you need it, you retrieve it intact. The research dismantled that model decades ago. What replaced it is stranger and more unsettling than most people realize. Memory is not storage. Memory is construction. Every time you remember something, your brain does not retrieve a file. It rebuilds the event from fragments, filling the gaps with inference, expectation, and whatever else happens to be active in your mind at that moment. The rebuilt version feels identical to the original. There is no internal flag that says reconstructed, no signal that separates what you witnessed from what your brain decided must have been there. Elizabeth Loftus spent 40 years documenting exactly how fragile this system is. In 1974, she ran an experiment that would become one of the most replicated findings in all of psychology. She showed participants footage of a car accident, then asked them a single question. Some were asked how fast the cars were going when they hit each other. Others were asked how fast the cars were going when they smashed into each other. One word. That was the only difference. The group that heard smashed reported speeds nearly 25% higher than the group that heard hit, and 1 week later, when asked whether they had seen broken glass in the footage, the smashed group was significantly more likely to say yes. There was no broken glass. The word had rewritten the memory, not the impression of the memory itself. But Loftus did not stop there. In a later series of studies, she demonstrated something that researchers at the time found almost impossible to accept. She could implant entirely false memories, memories of events that had never happened at all. Participants were told, through suggestion and guided recall, that they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, that a stranger had found them and returned them to their family. It never happened. But within sessions, roughly a quarter of participants not only accepted the memory, they began elaborating on it, adding sensory details, describing the stranger's face, reporting the emotional texture of the fear. The memory grew the way real memories grow, because to the brain, it was real. The mechanism behind this is not a flaw in an otherwise reliable system. It is the system working exactly as designed. Your brain did not evolve to archive the past with precision. It evolved to predict the future. Memory exists not so you can replay what happened, but so your brain can build models of how the world behaves, and use those models to anticipate what comes next. Accuracy matters less than utility. A memory that captures the emotional core of a dangerous experience is more valuable than one that records every detail correctly, because the emotional core is what allows you to recognize danger faster the next time. This is why memory and imagination use the same neural architecture. When researchers put people in brain scanners and ask them to remember a past event, then imagine a future one, the same regions activated: the hippocampus, the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior parietal cortex. The overlap is not partial, it is almost complete. The brain uses the same system to reconstruct the past that it uses to simulate the future, because from a functional standpoint, they are the same operation. Remembering is imagining. Imagining is remembering. The distinction exists in language. It does not reliably exist in the brain. In 2007, a study at Harvard asked participants to recall specific autobiographical memories while in an fMRI scanner. Then it asked them to imagine plausible future scenarios involving the same people and places from those memories. The neural signatures were so similar that researchers could not consistently distinguish between the two conditions from the scan alone. The brain that is remembering your 7th birthday and the brain that is imagining a conversation you might have tomorrow are, at the level of measurable activity, doing nearly identical things. This has consequences that extend far beyond courtroom testimony. Every time you remember a conversation, you are partially reconstructing it according to what you believed the other person meant, what you needed from the exchange, and what you have thought about it.